The year of the monkey began with blood. The enemy struck across the length and breadth of South Vietnam, shattering what had been a holiday truce. The holiday was Tet, the Lunar New Year. For the first time, the Viet Cong invaded the cities in force, including Saigon itself. Other battles were raging in the streets of Saigon, one not far from the presidential palace. An attack on the palace itself had been driven back. The enemy had been planning the Tet offensive for the past 6 months. Almost 100 tons of military supplies had been moved into the region around Saigon. The Viet Cong had chosen a number of strategic targets. Don Webster described the battle for one of them.
This is the main Vietnamese language radio station in Saigon. And right now there are an undisclosed number of VC inside occupying the station. They are not broadcasting on the air, and they're surrounded by South Vietnamese troops. And they're pinned down inside. We think they're going to be throwing tear gas any moment now to try to get them out that way. There's been a lot of shooting out the windows from inside, up on the second floor. The attack on the radio station started at 2:30 in the morning. The Viet Cong pulled up in cars. They killed the guards outside and stormed the station. The suicide squad of Viet Cong apparently intended to blow up the station rather than just taking it over. The large packages carry plastique, more than enough to blow up the entire station, including the Viet Cong. Even now, 8 hours after the attack started, there are still a few Viet Cong hiding inside the station. One by one, the VC are located and killed, and their bodies are unceremoniously dragged outside and down the street.
The communists did not succeed in broadcasting from the station, but they did destroy much of its equipment before they were killed or captured. Five days after the combat began, the enemy was still fighting. George Sievertson described the battle in one of Saigon's slums.
This neighborhood is called Ban Kur, or the chessboard, because of the maze of alleys and passageways. Its residents are mostly poor working people, and its slums are a refuge for Saigon's hoodlum and criminal elements. A Southeast Asian version of the Lower East Side or the Algerian Casbah. Vietnamese Rangers and Marines moved carefully, blasting buildings and possible Viet Cong hiding places before moving ahead. This was the first time heavy fighting has taken place in Saigon proper. Until now, most of it has been in the Chinese section of Cho Lon and in the suburbs. The VC were difficult to dislodge. They obviously knew the section well and had built barricades in key spots. Often, the only way around them was to take to the roofs. The Rangers and Marines took casualties, mostly from hidden snipers. The enemy was nowhere and everywhere. As soon as a section had been cleared, more terror-stricken civilians scurried out of their homes. Thousands of them fleeing from the bullets and explosives, and even more dangerous, a fire that began to rage out of control. Residents in nearby buildings began dragging their most precious possessions out of their shops and homes. Saigon's water supply system is operating only at 70% of normal, so fires are a serious menace. For these people, many of them who fled the war from outlying villages, this is the cruelest blow. The curfew has kept them from making a living. Food prices have tripled since the fighting began a week ago, and now their homes are being destroyed.
The fighting is taking place around the Cho Ray Hospital in Cho Lon, the Chinese section of the city. The most unnerving part of this kind of fighting is the possibility of snipers popping out of practically every doorway, every window. They're equipped with rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers. This is Saigon Hospital in downtown Saigon. It's been working overtime since the beginning of the Great Tet Offensive, and it's in hospitals like this all over the country that the real tragedy of the fighting can be seen.
Over 3,000 wounded have been admitted to Saigon's 9 civilian hospitals. Cases like these, bullet and shrapnel wounds. More than 200 have died in the hospitals. No one knows how many have died without reaching them. Hardly a day has passed in this war without the death or wounding of innocent civilians. But up until now, this has been mainly in the countryside. Now the Viet Cong have carried the war into the cities, and there seems to be no place to hide from the bombs and the bullets.